A very good morning, folks, and welcome to day number 3 of week number 20 of this complex trial of former Minister of Petroleum, Diezani Madueke, our brother, and Olatimbo Ayinde. Yesterday, I told you we were expecting the judge to read the jury notes of May 29 when there was that 2 week adjournment. Yesterday was actually very, very dramatic. Court was supposed to begin at 10:15. By 10 o'clock, when they made the usual announcement that all the parties for Alice Madueke to come to court number 2, nobody knew what was going to happen. We thought the court was going to start. But guess what? Less than even before quarter to, by 10 past 10, the judge was on seat informing the court that one of the jurors was sick. 1 out of 11 jurors was sick yesterday. So what that meant was that the court was adjourned. There was no sitting, there was no hearing. The jurors did not even get the chance to work because the rule is that when one juror is not there, the others cannot say. So one juror was sick yesterday. In fact, it was frustrating, not just for the defendant, even the lawyers, the police, everybody. It was just too ridiculous. It looked like a movie because it wasn't even yet, the court had not even had the time to start. I think they had phoned the court, that juror must have phoned the court to say, I'm not coming in, I'm sick. So the judge did not even wait for 10:15. By around 10 past 10, she quickly came into the court and then told the lawyers and the defendant, I said, look, we're not going to sit today because one of the jurors is sick. It is a very, very ridiculous law that when 1 out of 11 is sick, the others cannot say. So you can just imagine that one juror was sick, then the trial was put on hold. The trial could not continue. It was adjourned till today. In fact, it was really, really, we were coming out of court. Somebody from BBC was just even coming in, just trying to pass through security. And we were saying, look, it's over for the day. So that is how ridiculous the jury law is. And little wonder that the Deputy Prime Minister has put in a bill that this jury law, it is outdated, that it should be reformed. One juror being sick yesterday, the trial that has been going on for over 10 years, a trial that was investigated for over 10 years before it came to trial, a case that took more than 10 years to come to trial. Now jurors are getting sick. Of course, there's nothing anybody can do about that, but that just tells you that jury law needs serious reform, because yesterday, even the remaining 10 jurors, they were helpless, they were perplexed because they didn't even get the chance to sit down. Imagine you want to have a meeting, you need a quorum of a majority, but with jury law, it's completely different. One juror was sick, that was it, game over. There was even no chance to even see. So that jury law or note of May 29 is still outstanding. So we don't know whether that juror has recovered, but today they've got less than 30 minutes to know. So court resumes, the judge adjourned till this morning, 10:15. So hopefully nobody knows what happened to that juror between Monday, when we closed at 4 p.m. and yesterday. Of course, they must have either called in very early yesterday or before court start. But like I said, before 10:15, when court was supposed to start yesterday, the court had adjourned. The judge had come in quickly, didn't want to waste anybody's time, and said, look, we are not sitting because one juror is sick. It's really a frustrating law. It's a frustrating wait for everybody. By 10:15, by 10:30, the prosecutor was on her way out, and all of us, and like I said, by the time we were getting to security, a BBC reporter was just trying to check in. I said, look, it's over for the day. Many people are just coming in and said, it's over. So We hopefully that juror will have recovered and will have shown up today, this morning, or on the way. This is not the first time this sort of twist is happening in this trial. It has happened before that a juror was sick, and then even then there were 12. There were still 12 jurors. But now that there are 11, one juror being sick, sickness is not something which anybody can control. We don't know who. We don't know what happened to them between Monday and yesterday. Even anybody can be sick. One day is a long time, even in a trial. So we don't know. Hopefully, that juror will have recovered and presented themselves here. The court resumes 10:15, less than 30 minutes away. As you can see, people are filing in. I haven't seen any of them yesterday as I was coming in. Diezani was in already. Olatimbo was in, but we couldn't even get the chance to have a seat for them to hear that jury note that was put in on the 29th of May. Remember, the court only resumed on Monday after 2-week adjournment because one juror, look at that again, one juror had an holiday booked from January. Of course, it's not the fault of the juror who had an holiday booked, because that juror had notified the court when they were filling the questionnaire that whether they had something booked, date they won't be available. So they had already indicated, but we didn't know this trial was supposed to end initially end of April. Then we had all those bits and pieces, all those twists and turns. It's come to May, and now we had that adjournment 2 weeks, last week of May, because a juror had a 2-week holiday booked. And yesterday, one day after resumption, another juror, we don't know whether it's the same juror who went on holiday that was sick, we don't know. But another juror was sick yesterday, so there was no sitting. So the waiting game continues, frustrating waiting game for the defendants, for their team, and even the lawyers, even the police investigators. They said, nobody said you couldn't have scripted what happened yesterday, because everybody showed up. People come from various parts of London showing up in court, and before you even get the chance to say hello, to sit down in court, game was over because one juror didn't show up because they were sick. But again, sickness is not something which you can script. Sickness is not something which anybody can prevent, but it is the law. Those are some of the things which makes the backlog of cases, the judicial system of UK. That was why the Zionist lawyer, Jonathan Laidlaw, said when he was starting his summary that, look, the judicial system in UK is broke. These are some of the things that make cases to pile up. And then because of the jury system, where if one juror is not there, the remaining 11, in this case, there are 11 jurors remaining, one juror being sick, the remaining 10, they cannot sit. It's really wasting of, taxpayers' money, wasting of people's time, and then frustrating people who are just like helpless. What do I do yesterday? Because you had planned, it's like you have planned to come to work, you showed up, just as you were getting to work, the boss tells you, sorry, there's no work today, People say, oh, I could have been sleeping in bed and all that, but the game continues today. So like I said, the judge just summarized for them on Monday because they've been away for 2 weeks. So hopefully it's still fresh in their mind. And then when in about 20 minutes time now, you can see people arriving here in court. I don't know whether the defendants are already in. Of course, Bishop will join from Manchester, but that is what we have to confront. That's just how the jury system is. And this morning, hopefully, if that juror is back, the judge is supposed to read the note, the jury note that came in on Friday, May 29, because she had not had the time to read that. As I said yesterday, nobody knows where the jurors are in their deliberations. We don't have a clue. When we see that note, when the judge reads that note, hopefully she gets the chance to read it today. That is if the juror who was sick shows up today. If the juror is not here, then we move. There will be no seat except the judge goes ahead to use her discretion. But hopefully, let us wait what happens. Just less than 20 22 minutes away. So if the jury is complete, the judge will read that note of Friday, May 29. If not, I'll keep you posted. Whatever happens, enjoy your day. And then here in London, it's starting to rain. Yesterday was a different ball game, nice weather, but here now the rain is falling. It's really falling here. But for the defenders, they just want this thing to be over so they can move on with their life, whether they're going up or down. They just want to move on because their lives have been put on hold. Emergencies 2015, just not even for Diezani in particular, not being able to walk, not being able to leave London, a passport confiscated just because of this trial, and then the twists and the turns, and of course, the others, even the lawyers themselves, they just showed up. It's been over 2 weeks now. This is the third week that the jury has been out. Hopefully, sooner than later, they will reach a verdict. But if they don't today, it continues tomorrow. But we are hoping that the judge will read that jury note. We will have an indication of exactly where they are in their deliberation. So I'll see you later in the day or tomorrow. Take care and enjoy your day.